What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another Chance Encounter. I'm joined today with Anna Tan. How are you doing today, Anna?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Dan.
All right, awesome. And I'm really happy today, I got to tell you, because my favorite audience member is here today. And why is my favorite audience member here? It's because these are chance encounters where I interview commercial real estate investors. And why do I do that? Well, part of it is because it's the law, so you kind of have to. And then, of course, it makes sense to know the other people who you might be able to collaborate with down the road. But I'm doing it because I also need to be compliant with 506B requirements. So anyway, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, Anna, can you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, hi everyone. So my name is Anna Tan. I'm currently a petroleum engineer for a major Fortune 500 company, but my husband and I in the past 10 years have actually invested in real estate. We started with the single family home side, did fix and flip, hard money loans, cold calling, the whole gambit. And we recently started getting to the commercial real estate, so focusing on multifamily in the past year.
Awesome. And so the way that we always do these chance encounters is I start off with the motivation piece because even the newbies know why they're doing it, even though they might not know what they're going to be doing. So I go through these first. So the first motivation I found, some people are in this to preserve their purchasing power. So if you are what they call independently wealthy, if you rely on the cash flow that comes from the assets that you own to make ends meet, then your motivation for making more commercial acquisitions is to stave off inflation. You need to keep on making more acquisitions to get additional cash flow. So that is some people's motivation. It is not my main motivation. My big one is trading time for wealth. And I heard you mention that you're in engineering, especially in the petroleum industry. So you're probably similar to me. My background was in electrical engineering and technology, which is why I got the hat with the tech company thing going on here. My background is from a CRM company and the agency that I built from that before getting into doing all that stuff for real estate specifically. But I realized that if you've got a high salary, you got a high wage, then you're paying more tax than anybody else because it's coming in as salary or wage. So I put my thinking cap on and I was like, well, how can I pivot this so I'm getting equity instead? And that's my motivation for all of this. But the most frequent answer we get is fast tracking retirement. More accurately, it's taking more control over your time. So maybe it is that you want to retire at a retirement age. Maybe you just want to become an accredited investor and then move someplace with a low cost of living to live out your days. But even if you just want to work fewer months per year or weeks per month or hours per week, fast tracking retirement is that motivation. But that's different from the next group. The next two groups, they're going to keep on going into their 90s because they've got motivation that is separate from just that kind of end goal. One is they're so ambitious, they want to buy their entire hometown. They're probably looking for the generational wealth, making sure that their great grandchildren never have to hold down a day job, that sort of thing. But the last group, they also realize the power of finances to make a real impact in society. They've picked an area of society or expect to have one down the road, or maybe it's the environment, or maybe it's animals, but they realize that they need to make these acquisitions so that they can make a big difference. So of those five different motivations, Anna, like what describes you best? What combination of them? What resonates with you?
So I would say the trade time for wealth, very similar to you, Dan. So my husband and I, our families were refugees, and so we never had this problem, growing up because they pretty much came to the U.S. with nothing. And so my husband and I were a dual income family, and now we're in a position where we are trading time for wealth, and that's why we started pursuing commercial real estate, trying to find ways to reduce our taxes and pretty much benefit from some of the things that other wealthier people are doing.
I love that. Excuse me. But one of the things that I like about the strategy that the two of us are taking is that I think it leaves the door open for ideas like retirement. And I don't think like I think if you're not involved in this, if you don't have one foot in the business, I don't think you're even leaving that door open if inflation gets crazy like it has been. But we're talking about commercial real estate. And more importantly, I want to make sure that you in the audience there learn to effectively communicate on the subject of commercial real estate. And if you go to dandoesdeals.com, you can download the little template so you can print this out, show it to your friends and your family, your kids, whatever. This Dan Does Deals commercial roll die with the 6 different roles in a commercial deal. I don't even ask for your email address like I should. That's bad marketing to just say, okay, go ahead and print it out and use it. But I want you to be able to do this. And I want you to understand where my guest fits into this in the big scheme of things. So first, let's talk about repositioners. A repositioner is an acquisition person. They're finding the properties. They're looking at a bunch of different properties. They're going through the paperwork. What are they doing in that paperwork? Well, first of all, they're doing the math, and there's a fancy word for that. It's called underwriting. So first they do the math to make sure that the seller, what they say the property is making, they make sure that that's actually what's going on. But it's called a repositioner because they're also figuring out what tweaks can we make to this property, this business, so that we end up making more money from this property than we are right now. And the tools in the repositioner's tool belt for that, the first one is more efficient operations, cutting the costs, making sure that those Benjamins don't all go down the toilet right there, but bookkeeping, collecting rent, unclogging toilets, maintenance, all that sort of stuff. There's more to operations than just that. Like there's also a marketing piece, which is one of my fortes that I've been bringing to groups, is the marketing piece to keep vacancy low. That's what I'm up to. But that's probably not enough these days if you're making a new acquisition. You can't expect to just do more efficient operations and still be able to get enough upside to make the deal make sense if you're a repositioner. So the next tool is getting a contractor team to do the value add, okay, to do the renovations, make the place nicer, and then that way they can charge more in rent, and that is upside. But one problem a repositioner might have with having operations in the contractor team is they might be from the internet like me, and I need a local to deal with that. Okay, so you need boots on the ground. Somebody on the team is going to have to live somewhere near the property, so hopefully they can get there in an hour or 3 or something like that, because it's not going to be me, because I don't even want to get my passport. But if you lined up the people I've mentioned so far and you showed them to a tenant, they'd say, and you said, hey, who are those people? They'd say, oh, those are the owners. But of course, it's not that simple. The financiers, the banks, the fund managers, all that sort of stuff, they also have to be involved. They're getting some equity in a lot of situations. And the thing that the financier is going to want to know, though, that I haven't mentioned, is they're going to say, who's the sponsor? Who's the KP? And the role of the sponsor, KP, they're supposed to be like one of the big players inside how the deal actually happens. But if you want to be eligible for a loan, you have to have somebody in the fold who already owns a similar asset. Okay. Otherwise, you're just simply not eligible for the loan. It doesn't even matter if you're Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or whatever. But you also have to have a certain amount of liquidity, and you also have to have a balance sheet of at least the amount of the loan. But if you have all of those pieces, you've got yourself a commercial real estate deal. So Anna, as far as those pieces of the puzzle, what are your core competencies? And more importantly, what are you more likely to contribute to your next deal?
So the great thing between my husband and I, we have differing skill sets.
Mm-hmm.
So my husband's really good as the repositioner, the underwriter. So we actually have built a system utilizing virtual assistants, and we have an acquisition analyst to help find the deals for us, to kind of do a first pass analysis on the properties that, or the areas and submarkets that we're interested in. and then we look at the deal and we try to pursue as much as we can. And then we're also great sponsors. So we are currently co-sponsors on 2 deals. And it's really exciting to leverage the knowledge and experience of other sponsors, and these commercial real estate properties, you just can't take them down by yourself. You just have a very niche or specific thing or attribute that you can bring to the team. One thing that I'm really great at is the marketing piece, kind of putting together, if you have webinars or presentations, just kind of showing the value of the property and the business plan, and just really the communication piece is something that I bring to the table.
That's beautiful. And you mentioned how multifaceted commercial real estate is, and how you have to have all these different players. And I think that that's one of the reasons why commercial investors are so friendly. It's because you're probably not in direct competition with anybody, and nobody is all the sides of the die. But as far as people who you are best suited to help, you can't break any SEC restrictions, so no
Right.
enticing investors. But as far as these different roles, I personally, because of my tech and marketing background, I'm always on the lookout for more sponsors and KPs. But who are you better suited to help? Is it beginners, people who are established, sponsors, operations people? Who can you help more?
So I would say, because we're still kind of early on in our commercial real estate journey, but we've also recently have stepped into the beginner role. So we love to help kind of the beginners. I mean, we were there not too long ago, just a year ago. So
Mhm.
we understand how it feels like, all the roller coasters that you kind of go through. So just kind of providing, this is kind of how we do things, or this is how it worked for us. Maybe it kind of would help you on navigating the commercial real estate journey a little quicker. But we also would like to team up with more experienced sponsors, so that way we have a better understanding and receiving the mentorship from the more experienced folks. And we're just willing to, get down and dirty if needed, and roll up our sleeves and do a little bit more of the work, just so that we can learn.
Awesome, awesome. So my next question is about your ideal property. And when commercial investors are talking to each other and saying, "Hey, what's your buy box? What's your ideal property?" They're really asking about three things. The first one is the geography. So where are these ideal properties? So what state are they in? What county are they in? What neighborhood in some situations? That's what they want to know. The second thing they're going to want to know is the unit count. Now, of course, if you're doing industrial or warehousing, you're going to be talking about square footage, but it doesn't matter if it's multifamily or self-storage or mobile home parks or things like that. You're talking about the number of units. And the third thing you're going to want to know is the class. And unfortunately, they use the word class for two different things, and then they use the same rating system for both of them. So the two meanings of the word class, the first one is the condition of the actual building. Is it beat up or is it immaculate? And also it's like, is it like already got all the amenities that you'd expect in like a high class area, or is it just more middle of the road because it's working class housing? So that's the one meaning of class. The other meaning of class is the actual neighborhood that it's in. Okay, so that means how close is it to good schools? What's the crime rate like? And both of those, they give it a rating just like in grade school, where it's like C, B plus, B minus, A minus, and so on. So Anna, as far as properties where it's easier to say yes and it's more difficult to say no, what can you tell me about that ideal property for you?
So it really depends on the market, and obviously what you're looking at purchasing. But for me, we're currently looking in Texas. So the Houston and Dallas markets, it's just high population growth. During COVID, it was still pretty steady, and you do see the job growth with it. So obviously, when you're looking for commercial real estate, you want folks that can actually pay for the place.
Mhm.
Um, and also the type of class. So we are currently focusing on B and A.
Mhm.
We have C properties historically, but just kind of based on the inflation and the current economic conditions, it just for us makes a little bit more sense to focus on areas that have higher general income, just a demographic that can afford not only the inflation bumps, but also the rent bumps that will come with or due to inflation. In terms of the unit counts, we're looking for at least 75 plus units. For us, that makes sense, especially since we still have our main jobs. We're able to hire property management companies that can manage the day-to-day stuff, the lease, the daily operations. From our single family home experience, that's just not a favorite pastime that we like to partake in. So if we can pay someone else to do it, and they'll probably do a better job than us anyway. So, and of course, great schools, that would be ideal. It's just so much easier to sell the property later. And of course, people want to move to places with better school districts.
All right, awesome. And so if somebody is there in the audience and they want to reach out, we ended up meeting through, I think it was indirectly through LinkedIn, through some meetups or something, or through Yona. But is LinkedIn the best way to reach out to you, or is there a website that's better, or how should people reach out?
Yeah, so we have a website. It's called suitelifemf.com. It's suitelifemf.com. And that's just kind of that's just a comment on how we came up with that name. Is that growing up, we were kind of poor, and we didn't have the opportunities to go on vacations and kind of really have fun and live the sweet life that we hope to enable our network and friends. So that's how we came up with our name.
All right, that's beautiful. And the only thing left is actually, it's not for you, it's for you in the audience, which is under my left hand. If you're on a phone, you'll see these big red, this little message saying you should subscribe, and it's really ugly. And but on desktop, it's way worse. It's this big, terrible, nasty looking red button. It says subscribe on it. And the way that you get rid of it is you just click on it and it turns gray, and then something magical happens. YouTube starts sending checks to pay for these videos instead of me paying for these videos. And that sounds amazing. And it costs you absolutely nothing. All it means is that my videos might show up on your list of suggestions, but you can completely ignore those if you want. You've already done me an enormous favor by hitting that awful button, and you've done your eyes a big favor as far as I'm concerned. But Anna has also done me an enormous favor today by joining me. This has been fantastic getting to know you, Anna.
Likewise. Thanks, Dan.
Awesome, thanks.
I just want to tell you, because I've actually seen your website, Real Estate is a Scam, before, and I loved it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, because I think it's really so spot on. There's good stuff, bad stuff in every industry.
Yeah, make sure you subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell. For Dan the Man.
And thank you. Turn that subscribe button from red like his beard to gray like his beard will be.
So I met Dan through some networking groups for real estate investing. He's a great guy from what I know about him. He's very ambitious, and he makes it easy to come on with his questions, and has a great setup. It's easy, it's clear, concise, and I'd recommend going on his interviews for anyone that's considering it.
It was unlike anything I've ever experienced. It was super fun. The process was so easy, a caveman can do it. I mean, if you guys haven't done it yet, you guys need to get on his calendar. Just take 15 minutes of your time, get exposure, find out who Dan is, what he's about. He's a true trifecta. And if you don't know who he is, get in touch with him. Google his name, find him on LinkedIn, do whatever you can, just reach out to him.
So I really appreciate the format. Like I've told you a couple times before, I think it's really great because me personally, I'm very long-winded. I have to purposefully make things more concise, but the way I take things in is I definitely prefer things to be concise and straight to the point and concentrated. And the chance encounters really do that great for individuals. So you can get a good grasp on who they are, what do they do, why do they do it, what space do they operate in. That's why I love chance